I think we can all agree that the quality of Bill Maher's show started to degrade once he turned into a full-blown Democratic partisan loyalist and Hillary Clinton apologist. So what he typically likes to do now is look down at us peasants from his pedestal and yell at us for not doing what he wants us to do. Now, I like to call this richsplaining, but you can call this whatever you want, because what he did recently, richsplaining, berating progressives, is he took his smug, self-righteous, arrogant segments that he usually has against progressives to a whole new level when he decided to opportunistically exploit political issues in order to belittle one of the world's greatest intellectuals, Dr. Cornel West.
I know this is a matter close to your heart. There was an acquittal this week of a police officer, Betty Jo Shelby from Tulsa. She shot Terrence Crutcher, a unarmed black man. She said she feared for her life. And then in South Carolina, Michael Slager shot Walter Scott in the back, running away, and that was a mistrial. And this argument that the cops get away with, I was fearful that they might do something erratic. I thought when you went into the police department, you understood that there was some danger in this job. I don't know where they got this idea that if I fear at all, I am allowed to shoot you. But that seems what's happening. And by the way, Trump is all for it, and Hillary Clinton wouldn't have been. So, as someone who said they were equally awful,
no,
I'd like...
I didn't say equally
Yes,
awful.
you
I
did.
said one was a disaster, another was a catastrophe.
Exactly my point.
But
How
a
is that
disaster is better than a catastrophe.
Well, that point was lost on a lot of people. Stop it.
But let's keep the focus where it belongs. The police have yet to go to jail when they end up in committing violence and murdering these young black brothers and sisters.
Right.
And the problem is we want a fair trial for them, but there's a chronic racism that's shot through and over again, but it's just not the police. Same is true with Wall Street. No Wall Street executives go to jail either. Rule of law comes down hard on the poor, and the well-to-do get off, or the police get off because they're protecting the property.
But Hillary's first speech was about mass
Hillary gave speeches about all kind of stuff, but it didn't have a whole lot of integrity in it, though, brother.
That's such bullshit.
That's not bullshit at all.
Really?
Look how they treated Bernie Sanders, man. They concerned about the Russians. Look how they treated Bernie Sanders. Bernie would have won if he had a chance. He would have won if he had a chance. Don't defend Hillary. Hillary can't even take responsibility for the fact that she lost the election.
Look what you did to him.
On everybody
But he's so wrong.
Don't trot Hillary out on me now, bro.
He's so wrong.
Oh, no.
He's so wrong.
She's better than Trump, but don't lie about the sister.
She's better than Trump. That's all I'm saying. A lot better than Trump in so many ways. And just on this,
that doesn't take too much. That doesn't take too much. Who is it better than Trump?
That's not an answer. It's glib. It's beneath you. For someone who's such an intellectual, that answer is beneath you.
Let me tell you why it's not. It's precisely because when I asked you, would you vote for Donald Trump over David Duke, you said you wouldn't vote for either one. Remember
Hillary is not David Duke.
No, but it's this. If you're talking about Wall Street, if you're talking about militarism, if you're talking about dealing with folk in Honduras,
she's light years better than him about all of them.
All of those issues, Hillary is unacceptable.
No, she is not unacceptable.
She was.
Why are we still arguing the last election? We got stuff going forward.
Because they haven't learned the lesson that we need to win the next election.
No.
That's why.
No.
That, to me, was absolutely rage-inducing. Now, I watched it multiple times at this point to prepare for the show, to talk about it, and each time, I get angry again. It's so aggravating. I mean, the nerve of this guy. And he states here, he looks at Cornel West, he says, I know this is a matter close to your heart, as he talked about police brutality against African Americans. But my question to Bill is, isn't this a matter that should be close to everyone's heart? Don't you care about state-sanctioned violence against black bodies? Or was Bill Maher just bringing up this point because he thought he would be able to use this as a means of attacking and discrediting Dr. Cornel West? I mean, that's really the question that we should be asking here, because Bill Maher doesn't really talk about criminal justice reform on his show, so this one time when he chooses to bring it up and pretends to be outraged about it, my question to Bill is, are you just bringing this subject up as a means of you being opportunistic so you can discredit Dr. Cornel West? I think it's a legitimate question, and a journalist from The Root explains what she thinks Maher was trying to do. She states he used their black lives as leads and their slayings as segues into what he really wanted to do. Put their blood on West's hands and on anyone who was critical of or didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. So if you wanted to argue with Dr. Cornel West, you could have just argued with Cornel West. It would have been less rage-inducing, but what you decided to do was exploit a political issue. You chose to be a political opportunist because you thought that you'd be able to score some political points. That to me is just, it's a special kind of evil. Now, I could understand if Bill Maher was talking about this issue all the time, but he rarely talks about it. So if it's really an issue that's dear to your heart, then why do you only bring it up when there's someone there that you want to attack? He also states that Hillary Clinton is a lot better than Donald Trump in many ways, and Cornel West made the point that if you're talking about militarism and Wall Street or Honduras, she's not better. But Maher insisted that she is light years better than him about all of them. But that's just factually incorrect, and what he's doing here is being intellectually lazy. He's not willing to actually think about the argument that Cornel West is putting forward. He just wants to dismiss it and say Hillary Clinton is better on every single issue, but that's not true. You can actually make the case that Hillary Clinton is to the right of Donald Trump on foreign policy. So, for example, when Donald Trump bombed Syrian airfields, Hillary Clinton came out and said that she would have bombed them more. And she said that she wouldn't have warned Russian soldiers. So, in other words, she would have risked World War III as a means of showing strength. So she is to the right of Donald Trump. She also has been advocating for a Syrian no-fly zone. Now, prior to the election, Donald Trump expressed support for this position as well, but nobody pushed for it in the election as hard as Hillary Clinton did. Maybe besides Jeb Bush. And if Russia violates this no-fly zone, then we shoot down their planes. So Hillary Clinton literally has policies that would facilitate World War III, but Bill Maher isn't even willing to have a debate about it. Bill Maher is just unequivocally rejecting any and everything that Cornel West has to say because he has a point to prove. He planned to attack Cornel West before he even came on the show. And that to me is intellectually lazy. Bill Maher thinks he's right and everyone is wrong, and everyone who doesn't see the world through his rich view is just wrong and they're an idiot. And it's so frustrating to see him berate someone who I respect so much. Now, when it comes to Wall Street, Trump may be terrible, but Hillary Clinton would have been only marginally better if we were lucky and applied constant pressure to her. So that's why many people felt compelled to vote against both of them. Because regardless if Bill Maher wants to think that voters are stupid, regardless of what you think, voters are rational. They make rational decisions and they think about whether or not it's worth it to come out, take time off of work, spend hours in line, and vote for someone who's only going to be marginally better than their opponent. And many people didn't want to come out and support Hillary Clinton. And if you give voters the option of a Republican and Republican light, 9 times out of 10, as we've seen, they go for the full Republican. Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson asked, why are we still arguing about the last election? And Bill said, well, because they haven't learned the lesson that we need to win the next election. No, Bill, you haven't learned the lesson that we need to learn to win the next election because you still continue to blame third-party voters, but you're not willing to even acknowledge how that's harmful. So the United States has one of the lowest voter turnout rates in the world, yet you still choose to blame people that came out to vote, when we should be praising people that decided to take the time to come out and vote, even if they voted for someone who you disagree with. And he's choosing to blame third-party voters rather than blaming the 9% of Democrats who flipped and voted for Donald Trump, or the people who just chose not to vote at all. And he also didn't mention how Hillary Clinton and the DNC disenfranchised half of the base by rigging the primaries and then subsequently shunning progressives by choosing a running mate that was to the right of her. So many people did not support Hillary Clinton because she was too right-wing to be running in the so-called liberal party, and she chose someone to the right of her. Why? Because she thought that it would be a better idea to win over more Trump voters than half of the base that she disenfranchised with the DNC. That is what I like to call hubris, because she was so sure that she would win this election that she thought she had us on lock. She thought she had Bernie Sanders and progressives on lock. But she didn't, and she lost. And furthermore, think about the lesson that Bill Maher thinks we should be learning. The lesson that he thinks we should learn is shut up and take whatever the Democratic Party gives you. But, as we've seen time and again, voters reject that. They just don't come out to support corporate policies and neoliberal Democrats. So, if you really want to win the next election, Bill, then you need to listen to us rather than telling us to shut up. And while I agree that Hillary Clinton is the lesser of two evils, and even though I'm not necessarily averse to voting for the lesser of two evils, I'm not going to vote for that level of evil, because those two choices are so evil that it's as if we had no choice at all. It was the illusion of choice. And I'll say it again, Bill, what did you do to help Hillary Clinton get elected? Because Bernie Sanders supporters, we put in the time and the money and the grassroots energy to defeat Donald Trump by campaigning for Bernie Sanders. But all you did was sit in your studio and tell us that Bernie Sanders had no chance of winning, that was something that probably demoralized a lot of voters and discouraged them to come out and vote for Bernie Sanders. But yet, when it came time for us to vote in the general, you did nothing. You still critiqued progressives. You brought Sarah Silverman on the show, someone who told us we were being ridiculous because we were angry that the primary was rigged, and you told us that we should vote for Hillary Clinton no matter what. But did you actually phone bank for Hillary Clinton, Bill? Did you actually knock on some doors and hand out flyers in support of Hillary Clinton, Bill? No, all you did was talk down to us. So if you want to find someone to blame for Hillary Clinton, maybe look in the mirror and ask yourself what you could have done to help bolster her campaign even further. But you didn't do that because you want to blame other people. You don't want to blame the Democratic Party's establishment for repeatedly failing us. You want to blame other people. And that's not acceptable. You don't have the persuasive argument. Now, Bill Maher, he took his condescension up to level 100 when he literally decided to start talking about how, well, you know, I'm the adult because I decided to make the responsible decision in voting for neoliberal corporatist Hillary Clinton.
Life doesn't give you two great choices. Adults choose the better.
Brother
there
Bill,
is no great one.
I live in New Jersey. If I had voted for Hillary Clinton, it would have made a whip of difference because she needed to win Wisconsin. She needed to win Ohio. She didn't go to Wisconsin. She lost because she didn't go to the right
I live in the
places.
District of Columbia.
So you know
I live in the District of Columbia. It made less of a difference.
These
That's
poor
not why
black
you vote.
brothers that you're always talking about
Yes.
wouldn't lose their health care under Hillary Clinton, and they will under Donald Trump if he gets his way. So please, I don't know who you think you're standing up for.
No, but well, let me put it this way, though, brother. Let me put it this way. You are absolutely right in terms of these particular instances in which the difference would have been made. But for you to have to then still hide and conceal the underside of Hillary Clinton and end up lying about her contributes to the lies that's been pervasive. That's my point. My aim is not just to win an election.
So every single reasonable point that Cornel West made went right over Bill Maher's head, or he was just being intentionally obtuse and didn't want to listen. And the most frustrating part for me was when he grabbed Cornel West by the shoulder and looked him in the eyes and basically got on his level, because Cornel West is so dumb. He's not a bright intellectual thinker that millions of people look up to. Bill Maher had to get on his level because Cornel West is so dumb, according to Bill Maher. And he said, these poor brothers you're talking about wouldn't lose their health care under Hillary Clinton, but they will if Trump gets his way. Okay, so Bill wants to talk about healthcare. That's great because I love talking about healthcare. Bill Maher says that, if Donald Trump and the Republicans get their way and the AHCA does become codified into law, then 23 million more people will be uninsured. That's true. However, what Bill doesn't talk about is how under the ACA, 30 million people are already uninsured. So 30 million people being uninsured is fine. But if it's 50 million, then that's when we have to start paying attention and worrying about how much people are uninsured in the country. But Bill Maher doesn't ever talk about Medicare for All, does he? He rarely mentions it on his show. Rarely, if ever. So he only cares about healthcare if it means he can defend the Democratic Party or Hillary Clinton. He doesn't actually care about the people who currently are left out under the Affordable Care Act who cannot receive health care because Democrats were cowards and they caved to the health insurance industry rather than listening to voters who the overwhelming majority of their base, the Democratic voting base, supports a single-payer healthcare system. Now, Bill Maher doesn't really care that much about health insurance, and the reason why he probably doesn't talk about Medicare for all is because his net worth is $30 million. So he probably doesn't even realize that us peasants are still not able to afford healthcare. People are still dying. People are still going bankrupt because they can't afford healthcare, or they might have healthcare, but they still can't afford care because their deductibles are so high. But if Bill actually cared about healthcare, he would be advocating for Medicare for all on his show relentlessly. But again, it's just another opportunity for him to make a political point. So he decided to pretend to care about healthcare, much like he pretended to care about Black lives, in order to berate Cornel West. Now, they also got into a discussion about Mike Pence and how it would be preferable and better for everyone if Donald Trump was impeached and Mike Pence became the president. Bill Maher is just so out of touch that at this point, I don't think he could tell his asshole from his elbow. That's how obtuse he is. Because regardless if Mike Pence might be nicer than Donald Trump and less bombastic than Donald Trump, Mike Pence is to the right of Donald Trump. Mike Pence is more anti-gay. Mike Pence is to the right of Donald Trump when it comes to trade policies. What part of that do you not understand? Just because you have someone who is seemingly a more typical Republican, even though he's more right-wing than Donald Trump, that's preferable to Bill Maher because it would make him feel better. But he doesn't actually want to talk about the policies that Mike Pence would be able to push and how Mike Pence is actually more dangerous because he's more politically calculative. So he'd be able to push through these harmful agendas. Meanwhile, every time Donald Trump does something, he goes and tweets about it. So we know what Donald Trump is doing. We wouldn't really know what Mike Pence is doing. But according to Bill Maher, you're wrong if you disagree with him. So Cornel West is the real deal, and he actually cares about the issues. Bill Maher, however, is just an opportunistic intellectual lightweight who only brings up certain issues if it means he can score some political points and prove a point to someone he dislikes or disrespects. So what he does is he projects his narrow view of the world onto society and thinks that anyone that disagrees with him is dumb. Well, that's not the case, Bill, and this is my message to Bill Maher on behalf of all progressives.
Go fuck yourselves with a locally grown organic cucumber.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.